So, I'd like to share a little bit of information about how to effectively manifest. Manifesting is a fascinating topic. One of the things that I have discovered over the years is that we're shifting into a different way of viewing the world. We realize now that the inner world is controlling the outer world. Just like we went through different revolutions like the Industrial Revolution, the Agrarian Revolution, the high-tech revolution, now we're going through a spiritual revolution where more and more people are waking up to the realization that the outer world isn't controlling them. They are controlling the outer world. Quantum physics has explained a lot of this. Fabulous books like The Holographic Universe by a man named Talbot was really interesting. We've got Joe Dispenza teaching people how to think like this. He was in The Secret. And Bruce Lipton, who was a biologist, is teaching us it's not about your DNA, it's not about your genetics, it's about your mind when it comes to controlling your body. Even though those types of scientists always believed there was nothing you could do if you were born with a certain genetic predisposition, that was it. Now we're learning that you can change things. You can change your DNA. You can change your physical situation. You can change your world by changing your thoughts. And I think a lot of the younger people now are looking for ways to practice manifesting because the world right now is a little bit upside down with the situation we're in with this pandemic, which is global, and the global economic reset is forcing people to find new ways of doing things. So if you learn that you can go within and you can use your imagination in order to think about what you'd really like to do rather than that job that you were planning to get just to make a lot of money. Maybe it's better to think about what does your soul want to do? What is your passion? What really floats your boat? What makes you happy whether you make money at it or not? Then you're in the flow. You're living a much more exciting life because work isn't drudgery. I mean, when you hear the statistics on how many Americans hate their jobs, it's mind-boggling. 60, 70% can't stand to go to work. Well, it doesn't have to be that way if you're doing what you love, but you have to figure out what you love in order to do what you love. And you can do that by going within, and like I said, with this mental video technique, you can ask your higher self what direction you should take sometimes, or what is your path, or, give me a sign that will show me what I should do. Should I go get this education, or should I move to a different part of the world? Or, it could be anything. It could be a million different things. But whatever your intuition is telling you to ask about, I suggest when you go to sleep at night, you relax, get into that meditative state, and ask your higher self to try to give you an answer, and expect to get the answer while you're sleeping. And you will. You might get it within the next 3 days. It can take up to 3 days to get an answer when you ask your higher self what you need to know. But I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And when you want to manifest something in your experience, you can visualize it. As Neville Goddard, one of my other favorite teachers, likes to say, assume the attitude of the wish fulfilled. In other words, if you need a certain kind of car, feel like you're driving it already. When I needed to move to New York and manifest an apartment, I felt like I was walking around New York City and I was living in an apartment that I loved, and it all happened very quickly. I've done that many times with moving. If you need to find a place to live, visualize yourself living in a new environment and feel like you've actually moved yourself and you're living there. One time I wanted to move out of a house that I was living in, And I really didn't want to live in an apartment building or by myself in a house. I wanted to live in quarters, an apartment that was in a mansion in a city. And one day I was driving with a friend, and she said, "Oh, did you know my friend Kim, who lives in that beautiful mansion, needs someone to move into her apartment?" I called her on the spot and moved in. It was fabulous, and it worked out beautifully. But you never know, once you put it out there that you're desiring something, how it will show up, when it will show up. But if you're very clear on what you want to manifest, and you feel like you've already gotten it, it will show up. And the best time to practice manifesting is when you're falling asleep at night, you get yourself into a very relaxed state, and you feel like you've already gotten what it is that you desire. And if you do it when you wake up in the morning, first thing, because before your brain gets in gear and you start to take on all the thoughts of the day, that's a good time to go within to the alpha, theta level of consciousness and visualize what you're working on, what you desire. It could be a new job. One time I needed a full-time job in Boston a few years ago, and I was working part-time, and I wanted this full-time job as an assistant manager. So every morning when I was getting ready to go to work or just getting dressed, I would look in the mirror and I would do the Louise Hay thing. Her thing is, you look in the mirror and you say sincerely, "I love you. I really love you." And then after that, I would say, "I am successful. I am powerful. I am so happy. I love what I do." You see, the "I am" is very, very powerful, because when you tell yourself, "I love you," that's hard for some people. But when you get comfortable with it and you start to really love yourself and you love your life and you love your ability to manifest and you love the fact that you're in the driver's seat, and if you need something, you know you can get it because you know how to think, life becomes a lot more fun. Well, very shortly after that, I was sitting in this beautiful office in Boston, and I was offered this full-time job that I had been declaring that I wanted and feeling like I'd already gotten it. And it arrived on my doorstep, and it was wonderful. I worked there for over a year as this assistant manager, and then when it was time to leave, the timing was perfect, and everything worked out very harmoniously. But if you constantly listen to your intuition and your higher self for the next step and the next step and the next step, sometimes you'll feel like you're taking a detour, but many times that detour will lead you to something that you need to experience. And if you keep filling your mind with positive thoughts about your ability to manifest, and you totally believe that you have the ability, because you do. We all do. We all have this inner power, but we don't tap into it enough. We don't realize it enough. We don't activate it enough. But because we're living in these times, the age of Aquarius, the time of the Great Awakening, the shift, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of energy in the universe that we can tap into right now. And it's much easier to manifest now than it's ever been because of this higher frequency that we're living in. And you can even manifest instantaneously once you get really good at it. The only thing that keeps you from manifesting or from your heart's desire is that negative thinking that might be buried in your subconscious mind. So meditating on clearing out any kind of negative energy and trying to consciously put yourself in environments where you feel good. And if you can't do that, blocking out whatever negativity seems to be floating around you and just living within your own consciousness where nothing but good is happening, you will find that you will get really good results. Things will start happening. You'll be optimistic. You won't be able to get depressed because you know that there's always a solution. If you want to see perfection, change your perception is on my business card, because I've learned that It's just a matter of shifting your consciousness to a place where you see things through the lens that allows you to be happy and see things in a positive light. You have the ability to do that. It's just about shifting your thought in order to get there. And you have the power.